Okay, we are live with Aidan Karadza.
You got that last name right.
Yeah, finally I got a name right. And it's weird to be talking to Gen Z. That makes me feel old. I'm Gen X. I'm not a boomer. I want to tell all the millennials listening, I want you to get this
you like to make that clear.
Yeah, I want to make this clear because some millennials look at me and say, he's a boomer, and they call me a boomer. The oldest millennial right now is 42. The youngest boomer is 57 or so. I'm turning 52. I'm a proud Gen Xer.
That's you're in the clear.
I'm in the clear. I'm not a millennial and I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen X. Let's get it clear. But Gen Z, to be speaking to you.
Yeah, we're the Zoomers.
You're the Zoomer.
That's what they call us.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's just start. How does Gen Z, you got a bunch of your friends are still in school. A bunch of you guys are just finishing school, university. So when you are coming out of school, I can't even imagine, like, how are you looking at the world? I don't even know how to frame this first question. Like, how are you looking at careers? Do you look at careers as something you're going to commit to for the rest of your life, a certain industry or niche?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I guess to make it clear for everybody, I just graduated school. I was in Western in London. I was in one of the business programs there. It was called BMOS. And I graduated in April. So I've been living in London the past 4 years during the school year. And now I'm out working back here at Rockstar full time. And it's definitely weird. I mean, I still had a lot of friends going back to school this September. So in September was weird when they were all going back to school and I was still coming here every day and seeing what they were up to. It hurt the inside of me a little bit. But no, the 4 years was a lot of fun. It was time to be done with it. I was ready to start making money and start learning some real skills, because as crazy as that sounds, I feel like, I've learned more in a couple months here than I did my whole time at school. And we can get into that. But career-wise, I think for myself, I think right now the biggest thing I want to learn is just skills. And, a lot of stuff. I've been fortunate to come in here and learn a lot of the marketing stuff that we've been doing. I think I didn't fully realize everything that goes on until I was here now full-time, because I was here in the summers dealing with a lot of the membership coordination kind of stuff, which was great. But now that I've been here full-time, I've been more involved in the marketing side of things. And now getting to see that and see kind of what that's like and everything that goes into it, and just, sitting with Nick in a lot of the marketing meetings, and then obviously you as well. I didn't realize how much goes into it. And then just learning from the Dan Kennedy stuff that you guys share with us and Russell Brunson, I'm like, holy, this is, I just didn't even realize how much goes into all this. And there's a lot to learn, and I'm happy to start learning some of this stuff.
I think we forget how much marketing stuff we've learned. Nick and I, your uncle has learned over the years, and I've learned over the years.
From direct marketing stuff to email campaigns to the importance of deadlines and subject lines. There's a lot that goes into it, and I'm trying to learn.
Creating authority, using personality, not making it.
Oh yeah, totally. The corporate stuff's brutal.
Yeah. Getting stuff done. Good is good. The concept of good is good enough sometimes.
Yeah, but I guess to answer the question, right now I'm just trying to learn as many skills as I can, whether that's marketing, sales.
When you were at university, I'm just interested because you've transitioned into Rockstar. I guess you've been here for a few summers, so the transition's been pretty smooth. But you were listening to a lot of podcasts while you were going to class and stuff. And, I remember you talking about Jack Mahler's and the What Bitcoin Did podcast and different Alex Hermosi. Why were you I don't understand, where did that come from? Why were you listening to those podcasts? Because those are great podcasts to be listening to. But what was it that was kind of getting you into that groove? I don't get it.
I'm not even sure myself. I guess I really started listening to podcasts and paying attention to the money system and macro and some of the finance stuff. I guess would have been first year university. It was during COVID, I think. Mm-hmm. It's kind of when we went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I learned how the money system works. I remember you first I
remember showing you charts of this Bitcoin stuff. And
and I remember you telling me about inflation. I remember it was during COVID. So I guess I was 18 or 19 right before I went to school, and you used we were talking about inflation, and you used the Wayne Gretzky rookie card analogy, which is an oversimplified example of inflation. It's pretty much that, let's say I'm at school and I have a Wayne Gretzky rookie card, and someone else has a BMX bike, and we're going to trade. I have the rookie card, he has the BMX bike, and we're going to trade. Well, then the next day, someone else comes to school with another Wayne Gretzky rookie card. And then the next day, 10 more people come to school with the Wayne Gretzky rookie card. And now there's all these Wayne Gretzky rookie cards, and there's still this one bike. And now the person doesn't want to make the trade because those rookie cards don't seem as valuable anymore. And then, that was kind of the analogy you used to explain inflation. And not like the CPI, because CPI is bullshit. Like the expansion of the monetary system. And then I think that kind of clicked for me. And I don't know, for some reason, somehow I liked that. And I went down the rabbit hole and I liked to start learning about this stuff. So I don't know. I don't have a clear answer there.
And I guess for anyone listening, I just want to be clear on CPI and why it's so ridiculous. It's that like M2 is the money supply in the country. And every time a new mortgage is created, or every time you go to the store and tap your credit card, you know, it's not like Visa, Amex, or MasterCard.
Well, just to oversimplify it, M2 is just the amount of dollars in the system. Mm-hmm. And every year, more and more dollars come in the system, which increases the amount of dollars in the system, decreasing the unit of the dollar, because there's more dollars in the system. So each dollar buys you less. Yeah.
Decreasing the value, debasing the currency. Yeah. And CPI, the way the government tries to measure it is they cherry pick different things.
Their basket of goods.
Yeah. Yeah. They cherry pick it. They report it as a number, but the way it really reflects in the economy, like the reason that things like real estate,
it's completely like manipulated. The CPI, like my basket of goods could be red meat, vacations, rent in downtown Toronto. I guess that's maybe a bad example of stuff going up in the last 12 months. But if you look at like just those three items over a longer time frame, it's going up a lot more than whatever the 2% they're talking about is going up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone can pick a basket of goods and the metric, the rate of inflation is going to be different.
Yeah. 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 They kind of cherry pick the choices. And then sometimes like the actual inflation is represented differently, because a lot of the new money gets created through lending, and a lot of lending happens, for example, with real estate. So real estate, if it has a structural problem of supply and demand, which this country has, and then you layer in all the lending that comes in through real estate, the inflation just shoots up as reflected in real estate prices. So people sometimes will kind of look and not understand why real estate prices are going up. It's just where the new money lands first.
Totally. Yeah. Every like sector of the economy is going to get new money in different ways. So like not everything, I think you tweeted about this yesterday, since the year you were born. So 52 years ago, the compounded annual growth rate of M2 Canada's money supply has gone up about 8%.
Yeah.
And not everything exactly is going to go up 8% a year. Money's going to come into the system in different ways. But like if my metric of getting ahead is real estate in Ontario or in the GTA, well, I need to be beating that 8%. It doesn't matter if cereal's going up at 2%. If I'm not beating my 8%, like it depends on what you're measuring against. If you want real estate, you need to be beating 8.
So how does that stuff, like, so you understand this. So how does that stuff, because you're clearly pretty passionate about it. I can tell you speaking right now, you're pretty passionate about it. How does that make you feel, like leaving school?
Crazy, right? I wonder where that came from.
Aidan's got the passion. So I guess leaving school, like, I guess that now that you understand this stuff, I guess it's good that you understand it. Like, I feel good that you understand these things.
And I think a lot of people my age maybe don't completely understand that, and not to their own fault, because it's hard to see. And I think at the same time, like, a lot of people are in school, like, and sheltered, maybe in a bit of a bubble, like probably me as well. Like I was fortunate where I didn't need to take out any student loans. You and mom helped me out with a lot of that, which I'm fortunate that you guys did that for me. But if you went to school, you probably weren't working full time 4 years. You probably didn't. So if you're not working full time, you're not going to be able to pay for school yourself, groceries or rent, especially in London, Ontario, or any of these big schools in Ontario. Luckily, parents are probably helping you out, and you probably can't see what's happening around you because you're not completely in it. You're not working. You don't see how much taxes you're paying. You don't see how much the price of goods are going up until you're really in it yourself and kind of on your own, or a little bit more. I'm still living at home. I think it's difficult to realize what's happening. And I think that's probably why. I think just not everyone's in the workforce yet, and they still have support from their parents, which is great because you can take advantage of that. But I think that's why it's harder for people my age to see what's happening.
Agreed. Can you, for anyone listening who's not aware with what's going on with student rentals in London by Western, can you just talk about the types of properties and just the rent, so everyone gets an idea of what's happening with rents by student rentals? And I know it'll fluctuate, but just...
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty similar now across most of the big universities in Ontario. So the average rent in around Western University in London is about $1,000 a room right now, which is crazy because you're actually paying more in rent throughout the year than you are in tuition. So your living costs exceed the tuition costs.
I never really thought about that.
Yeah, Mike DeZormo told me that.
Oh. Damn, Mike got it figured out again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the student rentals, I mean, they're great investment properties because they cash flow off the bat. And just the supply demand is completely out of whack, especially in those university towns.
Is it still this year out of whack?
If you have a student rental in London, like a half decent one, yeah, you're getting that thing filled in no time. And then a lot of the student rentals aren't driven by, or a lot of the student demand in these big universities in Ontario, so like Mac, Western, Brock, Queen's, University of Toronto, they're not driven by the international student demand like a lot of those colleges were. So this decrease in international student coming in doesn't really affect any of those big colleges or the big universities, at all.
And what are the property types that are preferred by you and your friends? Is it still like single family home? Like, what is it by Western?
I think so.
Is it 5 bedrooms, the typical single family home?
I think, 5 bedrooms, I believe, is the limit right now, unless it was grandfathered in Western, in London.
They were talking about changing the bylaws, but I think Mike was telling me it just didn't happen yet. So 5 bedrooms. So the landlord's earning $5,000 a month, and that's the preferred student rental for.
Totally, yeah. Like the house I was in London definitely wasn't a type of property that Rockstar investors would be buying. It was an old property, but it was a good one.
Mike was shocked that you were living in there.
Yeah,
because that was 5 of you with 1 kitchen and 2 bedrooms. Is that the norm for 5 bedroom, like the new?
I mean, there's still a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of supply that haven't been like renovated like that, and those still get filled quickly just because of like the location in. Like that's why rents were so high in that house that I was in. We were super close to the school. And actually that turned over. So like that type of property was a beat up property, 5 bedrooms, small bedrooms. That turned over for $950 last year. So I left in April, and the people signing for May 1st are paying $950 a month.
And in 2020, you signed that lease 2020 or 2021, you signed that lease for how much?
$595.
$595, and now re-rented out for $950.
Yeah, and now there's a lot of student rentals in London and across Ontario. We're looking at some of these in Queens, at Mac. But specifically in London, there's a lot where it'll be 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, so each bedroom has an ensuite.
So updated, they all have the ensuite. Yep. And is what is a preferred thing for students? Like, as a student gets older, like if you have some friends going back for their masters, do they transition from a single family home to wanting like a condo with 1 roommate? Or do they stay in the homes?
From what I've seen, a lot of my friends that have been there that are back now for a 5th year, some of them, like the whole house happens to be coming back, or the majority of it. So they're staying where they are because there's so many people they know coming back. But I know a couple people that moved into to some condos or to some 2-bedroom like duplexes just because a lot of their friends have graduated, moved on, and they wanted a house just a little more private.
And is proximity to the school still the number 1 criteria you feel for Western or Guelph or Brock or Mac or Queens? Is that still a priority? Like, how do students look at these properties?
At the end of the day, I think so. Yeah. Not everyone's going to have a car. So I think, if you're in a good location close to the school, that's probably still the number 1 metric to look at. But at the same time, like if you have a nice house, like 5 bed, 5 bath type, like I was talking about, those are going to be sought after for sure, kind of no matter like where the location is.
And can you tell everyone were utilities rolled in for your rent? Did you guys share utilities?
We weren't paying utilities. That was included.
That included. So the $650 a month included utilities.
Yeah, we started at $595.
Sorry, $595.
Got up to $650 by the end of the 4 years. But we weren't paying utilities. That was included in the rent.
Wow. Okay. So now you finish school, you finish the degree, you get out working, you're learning marketing stuff here. I guess when I graduated school, like I kind of looked at, I guess I'm going into this career. Like I will be in software and I'm going to make a career.
Okay, you know what? Before we talk about careers again, I guess to bring it back, this thing that I do miss, I guess, most about school is the community aspect of living in London at school is pretty cool, because moving out of my house in London, I'm like, I don't know ever in my life again if I'll be living on a street where I know all the neighbors. I can walk to like downtown London. I'll know someone in like the Starbucks or in the tahini shawarma place, or on campus I'm bumping into people I know, or at the gym, like half the gym. So the community aspect of school was super cool. It's cool, and I miss that for sure.
Yeah. When we got to know Ali, we took a picture outside Tahini's before knowing Ali.
Yeah, in London. Yeah. So I don't know. I know like coming now back at home, it's definitely the community aspect is it's not comparable. And I know it's a bit more like maybe there's some European cities are slightly more like community oriented, and your neighbors, and they just
there's more of a group setting. It's more of I feel like there's more of a unified culture. Maybe that's breaking up, but there are more people
breaking up. But I don't know, that part that I missed was super cool at school, and that was a big change.
It's hard to keep that going. I guess that's why a bunch of people. Did any of your friends move downtown? Because I figure that's why some people are moving downtown when they're young, to kind of get that vibe downtown.
For sure, yeah, and I'm sure there's more of that downtown. I live at home right now, so I'm not 100%, but I do have friends that have moved downtown and do like it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever consider moving downtown?
For sure. I don't. For me, like the office is so close to our home, and I'm working here right now, so it doesn't really make sense. Like the commute in the morning is like 8 minutes, so I'm not complaining. So I don't think it makes sense for me to move down there right now and then commute back here. But no, I'd consider it for sure.
And then how do most Gen Z, how do most Zoomers look at careers and jobs? I guess you can't, I'm not asking you to generalize for everyone, but like, do you pick a career and you think you'll stay in that career? I guess there's still some people who think that. How do you approach this?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, if you're going to school to be like a nurse or a doctor,
an accountant, lawyer.
Yeah. So you're probably going in thinking that's kind of what you're going to do for, I don't know, at least like the next decade or so. But I think there's a lot of people my age that are thinking, that like flexibility is key. And I think that's going to continue going forward just with like technology advancements, AI, the way like people are organic marketing on social media. I think those skills, like you're going to need to be able to adapt to a lot of different things. And I think we're going to need to like, just the technology changes that are going to happen in the next like 12 months are going to be crazy. So the next 5 years, I don't know what things are going to look like, but I think it's important to, just keep learning and being able to adapt.
Does your age group ever consider the country of Canada at all? Like, do you guys look around?
Totally.
In what way?
Okay, so I guess I can talk about some of my friends here. So I went to school with a friend. He was an engineer, and he was trying to figure out if he lives in Ontario, but rural Ontario, a couple hours from Toronto. And he was getting a job. He had a job offer in downtown Toronto for an engineering role and in Calgary because he was applying to both. And he ended up taking the job in Calgary because taxes were going to be less, and he was thinking the cost of living was going to be less expensive as well. Like the rent he was going to be paying was cheaper. So he decided to move to Calgary because of that. I have a friend who is goes to Waterloo for software engineering, and he's been doing some internships at Tesla and Apple, some of the big companies in the US, and he will be getting hired back at one of those companies. And he's like, there's no point in me staying here. I could get to go back to the US, make American dollars. And there's no opportunity to work in like for Tesla or Apple like there is there. So he's going to be leaving Canada just because the opportunity is greater. And he's like, it's fun making American dollars. He can come back here and buy whatever he wants.
Yeah, so no interest in coming back. Comes back to visit family, sees his friends, and keeps moving on. Damn, Canada used to have a bigger tech scene. Like outside Ottawa, we had a tech scene when I was younger. There was Corel Draw was like a big software application. Nortel was booming. There was BlackBerry. There was like a
and there still is people working within Canada. Like,
okay, good.
But I mean, these guys have the opportunity to work for some of those companies in California, and I think they're taking advantage of it.
Okay, something I wanted to ask you, I think that a lot of people my age are curious, or I guess it's the marketer in me that's curious, is that if you were to analyze a new business, like, I mean, just generic, like if we said, hey, we're going to go buy this car at a dealership, or we're going to go check out this real estate brokerage, or we're going to, go to see this chiropractor, dentist, whatever it is, what is the thinking on how someone your age researches that business?
Real estate investing isn't always easy, but it can be relatively simple. And that's where the Rockstar Inner Circle comes in. Look, there's a lot of real estate investing information out there these days. That's why it's so important to pick your sources wisely. And even though investing isn't always going to be the easiest process, it does not have to be super complicated. That's where tried, tested, and proven strategies like the ones that Rockstar members use come into play. Everything shared in the Inner Circle is built from first firsthand on the streets experience in the current market. It's all up to date, things that people are actually implementing today. In fact, the ongoing courses are delivered live, so they're always up to date with the absolute latest real life experiences. As a Rockstar member, get ongoing access to over 20 different systems and programs covering things like which properties investors like and why, our private rental system, what opportunities the investors are scooping up in student housing currently, the legal side of investing, why or how to use corporations as an investor, a mortgage class with the absolute latest options and programs to build your portfolio as an investor because they're different than a regular home buyer. And there's a whole ton more in all those different classes. Of course, to implement all these strategies, members get access to unlimited private one-on-one coaching with an actual human experienced investor, not an AI chatbot, not ChatGPT or anything like that. It goes beyond training classes in real estate. It's a community for people looking to take control of their own finances, to give themselves options and allow them to live life on their terms. With ongoing live and virtual opportunities to connect, it's built for investors by investors. You can see everything members get at rockstarinnercircle.com/member. It's rockstarinnercircle.com/member. Now back to the show.
I know this might sound like a very generic question to you, but like for my generation, I'm super fascinated by that because the marketer in me wants to know how your generation looks at businesses. So like, do you pull out your phone and like, what's the first thing you go to? Like,
man, yeah. I guess the first thing I'm doing is I'm probably just pulling up Instagram and I'm looking at their Instagram page, just seeing like some of the latest pictures they're posting and see if I can get like an insight into what the store looks or what they're up to. And then I'm probably looking like,
wait, hold on.
See if there's mutual followers on Instagram.
Okay. Oh, okay. So on Instagram,
mutual followers, if my friends also follow that account, maybe they've shopped at that store or been to that dealership, and then I don't know, I can ask them questions about it.
Okay. So on the Instagram account, if the pictures are not like, can you tell pretty quickly if they're posting recent pictures?
Yeah.
And so that matters.
I mean, I guess it depends what it is.
Okay. But that's kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah. And then the next thing I'm doing is just a standard Google search. I'm looking at their reviews.
Okay. But the mutual friends I never thought about. So because on Instagram, it'll say like, oh, your buddies.
Yeah. If there's a bar in downtown Toronto and I look on their Instagram and I see like 20 people that I follow also follow that bar, it's probably going to be okay. I don't know. I want to go to this bar because some of my friends have probably been to this bar and had a good time and they wanted to follow them on Instagram.
I never thought about the mutual followers. Damn. Yeah. So that's kind of like the social proof without almost a review. Like I would think like Google reviews, but now I'm thinking.
I'm still doing Google reviews too. That's probably basic what everybody does, but I don't know. That's what I'm looking at.
So Instagram, and then after Instagram, was it, what did you say after Instagram? I already forgot. Was it Google reviews?
Yeah. Just quick Google search.
Quick Google search, see what comes up. That's freaking me out a little bit on the Instagram on the mutual followers, because it's just a quick way to almost get reviews. Because if your buddies, friends, people you know are following it, it's kind of the instant social.
Totally. Like if you're,
I really never thought of that.
If someone wants to come on this podcast and chat with you, and like let's say you're looking on Twitter, I'm sure if they have like 20 mutual followers on Twitter, you're more likely to reach out to them or have them on the show.
Okay, then so on the whole social media front, I feel like you grew up with like Snap. Is your era the Snapchat era?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that still used?
Yeah.
Okay, Snapchat.
Maybe I should get off that now, but yeah, I still do use Snapchat.
Okay, but that's just like text for you guys.
Pretty much group chats. Yeah, I mean, I do like the main way we communicate. It was probably just like texting on iMessage, but Snapchat's definitely super popular.
Okay.
And I still do use it.
Okay. And then how do you guys handle criticism online? Like, I feel like for my generation, it was so new that if you posted something and somebody criticized you, it was like a big deal. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person's like criticizing me. I feel like watching you and your generation, you guys just kind of roll with it a bit better. If you post something anywhere and somebody kind of takes a little jab at you, does it really affect you, or do you just roll with it? Or does it still kind of affect you?
I mean, I don't know what situation like
I don't have a good example
where you're going to be like getting negative feedback on something. But yeah, maybe if you post an Instagram post and I don't know, someone posts like some comment.
Even that thought process is different, because I think people in my generation are like so scared to post something in certain situations, because like on LinkedIn, if somebody doesn't like their post or says something that it's not good, where you seem to just be more willing to kind of go with it.
Well, I don't know. Like if you're posting it publicly, like shitting on somebody, I think it shows, like everyone knows it'll show more about the person commenting than it does the person providing the picture or whatever the information is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that perspective. I just never really kind of think about it that way. Okay. And then because you handle, I mean, just watching you grow up, you've always been, I don't know where that came from, but on Instagram, you started a few different accounts that you kind of grew over the years, like playing cards and soccer shoes or stuff like that. And I don't know, you've always had a knack for kind of doing this. And now you handle a lot of the Rockstar stuff for us that we're really thankful for. Can you, anyone listening who's kind of trying to manage a social media account, are there a few things you can just share on?
Sure. So for us, when we started, I guess it was last May. So I guess it's been over a year and a half now. We've really been ramping up social media across all platforms. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, not so much, but we're more active on that, and same with LinkedIn. And I guess it was easy for us to really ramp up the amount of content that we put out on those platforms because we already, like the whole team here, including you, put out a lot of content already. So like multiple podcasts a week, multiple emails go out a week. We shoot a Rockstar Minute that was happening before we started any of the social media stuff that goes out a week. That's just a YouTube video of maybe like a property tour, or you talking about why banks are failing, something like that. So it was super easy to repurpose a lot of that content and start putting it out on our social media platforms. I guess the biggest three things to note when starting social media is there's kind of three ways to look at it. Like when you're starting, the first way to look at social media is kind of just like social proof, posting maybe once a month on whatever social media you're using, just to show people that you exist and that you do what you say you do. So just super like simple social proof, like, yeah, you're still active providing your service. The second tier of using social media is probably offering value, whether that's like entertainment or education. So what we're doing is trying to provide education on a lot of our platforms. And then the third kind of level of social media, I guess, is what we're doing now, or what we're trying to, is lead gen from the audience that we've built. Mm-hmm. And that's tough. Especially just like the kind of business that we're in. I've seen like a lot of success for smaller retail businesses, on like TikTok, especially. Like the barber is a friend of mine. I played soccer with him years ago, and now he cuts my hair, and he just posts videos on TikTok, and a lot of them go super viral, and he can fill his calendar for like a month at a time just because of his exposure on TikTok. And I think social media is super beneficial for these maybe smaller retail type of businesses, because it's harder to get someone to buy a house when we're posting a picture on Instagram or video on Instagram. But when it's just someone to buy, I don't know, like there's a Canadian a girl lives in Vancouver, I believe, Strawberry Milk Mob. Okay. And she's absolutely taken over for girls my age. She's completely taken over like the bikini scene. Okay. So she posts.
Sorry, did you say on Instagram? No, TikTok.
On TikTok, both, but primarily TikTok is where she grew. Strawberry Milk Mob. She posts like videos talking about, she doesn't actually really talk about the bikinis. She talks about, just kind of like makes jokes, documents her life, and the videos have gone super viral. And she's built now a huge brand just based on all this organic marketing that she's done through social media. And now her bikinis are like all the craze for girls my age.
So she's building her own audience, which is a marketing concept we talk about a lot, and it just happens. And
then now on like TikTok Shop exists now. So right on TikTok, you can buy like a bikini. You don't even need to leave the platform.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then same, like if my barber has a link in his bio on TikTok, someone can just hit, like if they see a video, they like a cut, they can just hit the link and book, like schedule.
So when you hit that link, it's just taking you to some service, a website that automatically is booked?
Yeah, totally. Where you can book, like see the available times to book a haircut.
Is that available on Instagram too? No.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can have a link in your bio.
Okay, so yeah, just a link in your bio. And TikTok is a link in the bio of TikTok.
Yeah, but there's also TikTok Shop, so you can buy products right on TikTok.
Holy shit, really?
Yep. I think Instagram actually now you can do the same, but it's more limited to like what you can buy on the like Instagram Shop or whatever they call it.
Huh. So on like TikTok, can we put out videos and people like book an appointment with us or something like right on TikTok?
No, we'd have to use an external link.
Oh, because what? We don't have a big enough following or something?
like TikTok Shop is like for selling a product right now, I believe.
Okay. So it has to be a product. So if we were selling a product, we're selling a book or something.
And so, yeah, so right now we're trying to get like lead generation from the audience that we're building on these platforms by providing like education and sometimes try to be funny. I don't know how that goes over, but, so that's kind of what we're trying to do. Yeah. And it's not easy. Like we've had some success with getting people to our email list via social media. That's kind of probably been the best success we've had. So converting people that didn't know us, that were on Instagram following us, and then getting them on our email list.
Yeah. Can you explain how you've been doing that? Because that's been pretty cool. I didn't think that was going to be possible. How are you doing that?
Yeah. So I'm just repurposing emails that you already write. So you write a Thursday email that goes out to our whole list every Thursday. And I just take that email and I just put it in like Instagram form, and I kind of adjust it to like fit how it would look good on Instagram. And
so you're just taking screenshots of the email pretty much?
No,
you're retyping it up.
I'm copying and pasting it, putting in Canva and making it look, it's called a carousel on Instagram. So it's a series of photos that you swipe through to read. And it's just pretty much the copy's the same as what you wrote in the email. It's summarized a little bit because I can't have it as long. And then at the end of that, or somewhere in the middle of that, I'll have one of the slides say, if you want to read the rest, or if you're interested in this kind of information, comment join, and then we'll have a system where the user will get a DM from us. They can give us their email, and then they'll automatically be subscribed to our email list. And I think, like last week we posted one, you were talking about the position the Fed's in right now, and people seem to like that one. And I think we got 32 or 33 new newsletter signups from that post on Instagram
for our email. So when they when someone comments join on Instagram, is there something automated happening on our back end that adds?
I'm talking too close in here. I feel like I'm loud.
It's, I usually have to complain to get people to speak close, but you're right in there. I dialed you down a little bit.
Okay.
No, I think you're good. You're not. It's not clipping from what I can see. But when people say join, is it automated?
Yeah, we use a service called ManyChat, so it's automated. You'll automatically get a direct message, so a DM from us, and it'll ask you for your email, and then that service will take your email and put it in our CRM system.
Okay, got it. So it's not like something you have to do in an automated fashion.
It's pretty easy once it's set up, yeah.
Huh. Okay. And then from what you've seen, because I know on YouTube, we're also...
Yeah, so we've been able to get some calls from YouTube through our...
This is great. I don't even have to finish the question. You just jump in because you know everything that's going on. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. This is wild. This is great. I'm just going to sit here. You go. This is perfect.
Yeah, so on YouTube, what we've been trying to do is we're trying to... get one-on-one calls with people to either become a member or chat with one of the Rockstar coaches with whatever questions they might have about investing in real estate. Or the membership. And we will have that QR code in the banner of our YouTube, on the banner of our YouTube channel, in the description, we'll put a link to book one of these calls of all of our videos. And then we'll have a short ad in the video itself saying that if you're interested in what we're doing here at Rockstar, want to chat, book a link with us and we'll give you a call. Then we'll talk to whoever calls, we'll put them on our email list, and then we'll try to answer whatever questions.
So if someone books that, is that going in a calendar? Or?
Yeah, it's automatically going into one of our calendars.
Huh. Okay.
And then a lot of the time the questions, like, I have a property here. I saw your video about, your student rental in Brock University. I have one. What should I do here? Can I talk to a coach? Should I become a member? Or it's like, I see what you guys are doing. Can I see a property?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sometimes people will already know about us. They'll watch a video. They'll already kind of know about us, and then they'll sign up to become a member. They just wanted some more information.
Man,
it's not easy to get these calls, though.
It's way harder than you think. All of marketing is way harder than you think.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess for me as your father, I just feel like you understanding the marketing principles are, because they're so applicable to any business, that I enjoy the fact that you're learning this. Like, I consider this a skill. Like, as much as we talk about investing for, creating wealth or being able to have some flexibility and freedom in your life.
Sure. For myself, I think, I need to learn some of these skills because I need to be able to mine some of this fiat stuff to be able to, to invest and to save in the hardest money in the world.
So, since you're bringing that up now, what is, I guess...
Okay, I'll circle back quickly just because I know this is a question that I was getting with some VIP members at the last VIP event we had a couple weeks ago. People were asking just, is it worth it to go to university still? What are your thoughts?
Were you getting asked that?
Yeah. What a loaded question that is. So I guess I'll talk about that just quickly.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people have been asking me, and so people seem interested. So it's a loaded question, and it completely depends on your situation. So yeah, obviously, I'm not going to say anything anyone doesn't know here. But if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, you have to go to school. That doesn't change. So if you're someone like that, or for example, my cousin is becoming a pharmacist. She wants to do that, and she'll do well being a pharmacist, and she needs to go to school for that. So she is. And then again, it depends on your personal situation. So like I was fortunate, and I'm grateful that I didn't have to take out student loans to go to school. My parents helped me with that. And like, yeah, it was a fun 4 years. I feel like I learned more about like living by myself and being away from the family. That was probably like what I learned most, just like my own day to day. And just trying to meet deadlines and working with groups, living with new roommates, dealing with our landlord. Like those lessons are probably bigger than anything I learned in school itself. And then it goes like, oh, all the money I spent at the bar. I'm like, man, if I just bought some Bitcoin with some of that money, like what would that look like? But I don't regret any of that. Those were good times. But it's a loaded question. Like the community aspect, like you meet tons of, like I've met tons of people that I'll know now for the rest of my life, like across Canada. But then at the same time, some of my friends didn't go to school. They're probably the most well off. They can go on
because they've been working, saving already.
Yeah. And they've probably learned better business lessons than any of us have, just by like whether it's growing like a detailing business right out of high school, becoming a plumber, whatever it is. So I think it completely depends. And like university, like technology is going to move faster than the profs. So like my 4th year of university, which was last year, like I could get like ChatGPT, like AI to do almost all of it.
Are the profs figuring that out now?
Yeah, a little bit. They're trying to like run it through these algorithms to see if AI wrote it. And some are embracing it. Like there'll be good profs and bad profs like anywhere. And embracing it and saying to use it and maybe coming up with concepts to help learn how to use some of these applications. But then there's some, like I had a prof, great guy, older gentleman. He was teaching history and it was an elective of mine. But you had to hand in the physical copy of an essay. And I mean, I'm probably 90% of that class just got ChatGPT to write that essay. They knew he wasn't you're handing in a physical copy of the essay. Like, he's not running it through any algorithm.
Oh, got it.
And even those algorithms, like what's to say that like AI wrote it, not me. It's there's a fine line. But so technology is going to move faster than what you're learning in university. And it depends on the person. So I don't actually have a clear answer for any of this, but
it doesn't sound like you regret it. Like,
no,
I don't
definitely
feel like
not. But at the same time, like I didn't need to take out student loans and debt. So maybe like would I've wanted to do something different if I had to? Like, yeah, it's tough to like, and then it is like a degree is first step. Like a lot of my friends right now probably wouldn't be getting some of the jobs that they're getting if they didn't have a degree, like some of the banks.
It's a filtering mechanism for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing some of the jobs that they're doing. But it's a good source of income, some of them, and you got to be making income, and it is kind of filtering mechanism. But yeah, the lessons you probably learn, like trying to grow your own business or do something right out of high school, might end up being more valuable. Probably is.
And then, so now you're out of school, you're working. I'm sure seeing taxes come off your pay or whatever was a little bit shocking. When you're
CPP contributions.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to pay into that.
Yeah. So what are you paying attention to now? I'm just curious because I know in school you were listening to some podcasts about marketing and business building and that kind of stuff. Is that still, and is there any podcast that like you could recommend to anyone, maybe that's at my age or your age, that come to mind? Like, what are you listening to now? I know it's not your entirety, but like
we could start talking about real estate and Bitcoin stuff. For Bitcoin stuff, shout out to the Canadian Bitcoiners, Joey and Len. They have a great podcast. So I listen to them.
They do a great job. I love seeing Len in that basement talking with those headphones on.
Yeah.
And Joey talking about squatting and stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I listen to their podcast. That's a great podcast. The Canadian Bitcoiners. I listen to a lot of Chris Williamson, the Modern Wisdom podcast.
Okay. You've told me about that one. One's good.
That's less like macro and like economy focused. That's more like business building, self-development, health and fitness. So he's had like Alex Hormozi on a bunch of times. Gary V. So he has great guests on. Chris Bumstead.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
And then Jack Mahler's, I don't know, he probably just read it. Yeah, the Money Matters podcast. Young Bitcoiner, he's crushing it. And he's able to articulate everything super well that's going on, just global macro and Bitcoin.
You're making me think about the Canadian Bitcoiners. What I like about them is they do a great job of like picking up on the news items going on and talking about it. Like they're really prepared for their podcast. For sure. I really appreciate that compared to how we do things where we just record and start talking.
Yeah. They do.
They're really prepared. I remember Len one time got me to, I think Joey was traveling or wasn't available, and he kind of gave me homework. He's like, hey, pick up like the five items you want to talk about and your comments on them. I'm like, holy shit, this is way more than we do for our podcast. And I appreciate that a lot about them. So yeah, shout out to those guys.
So yeah, and then I do a little bit less now just because we've been pulled in different directions, just like on the marketing and membership team. But I do a lot of editing for this podcast too. So I think last year I've only missed 2 episodes. I listened to almost every single episode of this podcast. Someone was joking the other day. They're like, your dad got you good, eh? Like he's just brainwashing you, forcing you to listen to every episode.
Yeah, accidental, but I guess it's true. Okay, so for anyone putting out a podcast, what are the things that maybe we're continuing to try to work on to be better? Or from an editing point of view, is there anything that comes to mind that you can share with anyone? Like if a business is going to start one?
No, just like the standard. You want to have like good, clear audio. And if you're on video...
Okay.
Clear video.
Something I talk about with business owners is just to do it consistently. Don't overthink it, just to do it.
Totally, yeah.
Okay. And then so out of your investments now, I know we've been talking about real estate for years and specifically student rentals. And I think you and I kind of covered that a lot in detail over the last 5-6 years, just about student rental properties, how they work. Now you're paying attention to Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. Anything you want? I don't even know what to talk about on those two because we talk about it so much, but does anything come to mind on why you're paying attention to that?
Yeah, we like to talk about this a lot in the office.
Yeah.
I guess we could start with real estate.
Okay.
So I think like a lot of, like Bitcoiners will say, like why buy real estate? Real estate's a shitcoin, blah, 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 blah. And, like they're right in a lot of different ways. Like speculation on real estate isn't right. Like buying a pre-con construction condo downtown Toronto, just hoping it, to appreciate $200,000 in less than a year.
Yeah.
That's not investing. That shouldn't be happening. And then, you're pricing out other people who want a place to live. Why don't you break down the 3 ways that you were looking at real estate investing?
Yeah, I guess when people kind of attack real estate, I'll say, well, there's 3 different ways to look at it. There are the speculators. So Aidan, like you're saying, those who are buying like a condo just in hopes that it goes up. And I remember people walking in here saying, that we don't really know how to make money because we weren't buying pre-construction condos that just seem to go up forever. So that's number 1.
Those poor guys now.
Yeah, they've been suffering a little bit, but that will also come back. But so condo speculation on real estate. So buying it in hopes of selling it at a higher price in the future. Then the second type of real estate, the way we look at it from, is there true investment or what I call business in a box? What is the income on the property and what are the expenses? So if we were to go back some of those student rentals, when I hear $1,000 a room and I know there's 5 bedrooms, immediately I'm thinking, okay, $5,000 gross, are utilities included or not included? What's the mortgage cost? It's more like a business, and the appreciation of the property is kind of like a bonus. It may come, it may not come, but you're not banking on it. You're looking at it as a business. Yeah. And over the last 15 and even 20 years, we've really got a lot of appreciation, which has been a nice bonus because of the devaluation of the dollar. It's hard assets like real estate have benefited, but we've always analyzed it as income and expenses. And some people have said that's wrong. We don't think so. We continue to look at real estate. And I think over time, real estate will return to the pure utility value. What are the income and the expenses on that property? And then the third way are developers. And how do they develop land? Are they building a subdivision? Are they developing like a commercial strip mall? Are they developing industrial? And their money requirements and capital requirements are completely different than the speculator or the mom and pop real estate investor. So there's 3 different categories, and they're all going to be affected with monetary policy and with introduction of things like Bitcoin over time in different ways. And I think the one that will be affected the most first as a monetary good like Bitcoin kind of emerges into the economy more and more will be the number 1, the speculators. Because people are pushed into speculation because they haven't had a store of value. So they just look at real estate, and now there will be an alternative. So I think that one gets affected hard and fast.
Totally.
And by hard and fast, I don't mean tomorrow. Like I'm sure 3 years from now, someone's going to come to me and say, hey, I bought this condo because it's going to go up in value, and nominal terms. And, you know, there's so much to discuss here that it will. But over time, with the introduction of Bitcoin, there's, for the first time, there's an alternative. And I just want to explain that for a second, because real estate offered Canadians leverage. You could go to the bank and say, hey, I want to buy this property. And the bank would look at that property and say, okay, we will accept that property as collateral. You give us 20%, we will give you 80%. And that leverage, if real estate over medium and long term goes up 7% compounded a year, which it has in the Greater Toronto area, that's a 35% return for me.
The leverage is what was getting you ahead.
It's really the leverage that allows me to outpace the debasement. And that was kind of like the beauty of real estate, and continues to be the beauty of real estate, as long as you don't over leverage yourself and you can kind of stay in the game. And we've never really had another asset that's really offered that. I mean, you could do stocks on margin, I guess, but it's hard to go into like a TD Bank and say, I want to buy $1 million worth of Apple. I want to put 20% down, and the bank say, okay, well, here, we'll just like let you borrow the 80%.
Sure.
So real estate offered me that. It allowed me to be banker, essentially. But now with Bitcoin, there's just an alternative that I think you need to think critically about. And if you don't think critically about Bitcoin, I think you're missing a major emerging player in the game.
Totally. Well, yeah, and I think it's back to what you said. I think it was you saying this on a different podcast. People just don't understand what money is. And because like sometimes you'll be like, or I'll be talking to my friends about Bitcoin, and I honestly don't even like bring it up that much anymore unless someone else brings it up. Then I'm more than happy to talk about it. But yeah, it blows my mind that like, yeah, people, especially like money managers, hedge funds, just don't like completely dismiss it. But people, don't understand what money is. And someone posted this chart on Twitter the other day. You saw it, I think. It's 11 of the last 14 years, Bitcoin's the best performing asset. And like, if you're beat by something like 11 out of 14 years, and then a compound annual growth rate over 4-year time, like you're beating everything, like you've never lost. It's like, how are you not at least like wanting to look into it and understand it at a bit of a deeper level? Like, it's like playing like a hockey game and you're losing to the same team every single time. Like, you're not going to like look into what they're doing, like why you're losing.
It's like the other team's on the power play constantly. You can't figure out what's going on. I never really thought about it that way. There's going to be some Gen Z, like some Zoomers have been absolutely destroying professional money managers now for like 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, Bitcoiners have been outperforming. Like, quote unquote,
so Gen Z is destroying Bay Street and Wall Street because if they just Bitcoiners. I don't even know if I'd say Gen Z. Yeah, okay. But a Gen Z, like if you're 22 and if you've been looking at this stuff for what's been four and a half years,
over 4 years,
you've been crushing professional money managers.
Yeah.
How many Gen Zs out there are like that? And then what does that do for you to look at a professional money manager like in 5 or 6 years?
Why would I settle for a 12% return when I can just buy and self-custody?
You know what's
best
do you know what's ridiculous? You just said settle for 12%. You know how many people would freak out for a 12% return, and you're laughing at it, which I'm agreeing with. But you know, growing up, if you could get a 6% return compound or 7%, like I remember talking to some dentists and they were like, Tom, if I can get a 7% return, sign me up.
That's fair, but I think now it is closer to 12. I mean, the S&P is what, like grows at like 12, 13.
Yeah, has it? Okay.
So
I haven't really looked at that. Okay.
That's what Sailors talks about.
Yeah. Kind of the hurdle rate, 12%, maybe debasement. Yeah.
But I mean, like if you're being outperformed by something year over year, like why wouldn't you like at least? I feel like it would make me think like, hey, at least like I'll allocate a little bit of this, like just
like that way
some of these gains. And then you go down the rabbit hole and it's like, oh, it's just.
Okay, so how do you, like, if the topic does come up, do you, like, recommend a book or a podcast?
Well, first it'll be the classic, like, I don't need to go over this story. Everyone will be like, oh, Dogecoin. I want to buy Dogecoin or whatever, like, XRP.
Okay.
And then I went through that, too, in 2020. Like, I was going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, but I was still having fun playing around with, like everyone does. I thought I could be, like, the Warren Buffett of trading NFTs. And I actually
no, you had a couple. I forget which ones, but there was a couple.
Yeah, it was called like the World of Woman. I don't know. I bought this just because I was following Gary Vee, what he was saying. I ended up buying this NFT. It was on on ETH, and I bought it for a couple $100, and then it ended up going to like multiple ETH. I think I sold it for like almost like in dollar terms, like almost like 10 grand. And I was like, holy crap. And then this is when so then I thought like, yeah, like I'm the Warren Buffett NFTs. And then luckily I whatever reallocated accordingly. It worked out well, but and just stacked Bitcoin. But then with actually like almost half of that, I think we when I was in first year, like it was COVID, all the clubs were closed. First year was like a weird year at school. All the bars were closed. Everything was on Zoom. That was a bad year. But then it would have been second year. The bars are back open, and I just sold this NFT. I'm like, I have some cash.
Oh, I forgot about this.
We're outside we don't know what we're doing. Like the bars are just back open. We're outside a club, and we're like, yeah, like there's a line for this club, but then there's like this other line. I'm like, what's this? Like, why don't we just stand over here? And they're like, oh, like
it's a shorter line, I assume.
Yeah, there's like no one standing there. It's like, this is bottle service. And I've like heard of bottle service. I kind of knew what it was, but I'm like, okay, like, yeah, let's just get a bottle. I didn't know how much it costs. But I sold this NFT, so I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like I'll have some cash, and I had some cash because of this NFT. So anyways, that's what I did with like a bunch of the earnings from this NFT. We went to the club. Me and my friends for the first time had no idea what we're doing. We just start buying bottles. Bottles start coming out. Yeah, looking back.
Normal path. Yeah. So then, how did you go to? Is it just us talking? Like, how did you kind of go to figure out that Bitcoin was the way?
It was just us talking. Then you go deep down the rabbit hole, and it's just, if you don't understand the problem, you're not gonna get the solution. And it was just like learning, like from that Wayne Gretzky analogy, just learning.
So that debasement.
Yeah, like your currency is getting debased. Your time and labor. Like I'm working right now for a currency that's losing its value. Fiat only goes down. If you think like
purchasing power,
who, and I can talk about this with my friends too. No one thinks, even if you don't understand Bitcoin, nobody thinks that a house is going to be cheaper in 10 years, or a vacation is going to be cheaper in 10 years, or in 2 years.
Wild.
Or like insurance for your car. No one thinks.
I never really thought about it like that. Like, nobody thinks that.
Nobody thinks that. So then once I started to understand currency inflation, and which is the expansion of monetary units, then I realized like, yeah, holy crap. Like that's what led me down to the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess that was the moment. You got to understand the problem. And once I understood the problem was that I'm getting debased. I'm working for a currency that only goes down. They're going to print more of it. And my purchasing power is going to, like, I think it was Jack Mallers on a podcast. He was like, this is the amount of hours that someone in like the 1960s had to work to buy a home. And then in the 90s, this is how many hours someone had to work in the 90s to buy a home. And now the amount of hours.
Infinite. It feels like. So I'm curious, any parent listening to this that might have, you know, a son or a daughter or your age, is the Jack Mallers Money Matters podcast something? Because I'm just thinking, like, what could they recommend?
There's a podcast with Jack Mallers and Zuby that I always recommend. It's super simple because it's
and that's on the Money Matters?
No, that's on Zuby's podcast. That's like the intro podcast.
How do you spell Zuby?
Zuby. That's an intro podcast of just like a macro view of what's going on in the economy and what Bitcoin is. And
okay, so that's a good one that you've handed out before?
Yeah, and I think Jack resonates with people my age.
Okay. Huh.
I mean, I like it, but yeah, I don't know. Preston does a good job breaking things down. Like your episode with Preston was a good one.
That I feel like was a good one. We just kind of got lucky on some of the questions we asked. Preston's so smart. You kind of lob a few questions at him and he just nails it.
And then going back to currency debasement, then I realized Lynn Alden a couple months ago wrote a good report on this. Like Bitcoin, I think, is super correlated with like the global money supply, like global liquidity. Mm-hmm. And if you think more dollars are going to be printed, and then now I'll actually get you to explain the pickle that the Fed's in. Mm-hmm. If you think more dollars are going to be printed, the price of...
I like how you're pointing at me when
in dollar terms, which, yeah, like you can argue is meaningless. The price of Bitcoin is going to continue to go up. Your purchasing power is going to continue to go up. But can you explain, just to break it down, like the pickle the Fed's in, like more money needs to come to the system because they need to print more money to pay for the debt. And I guess deflation, I'm just trying to like learn out loud here. Deflation isn't possible because you can't have the dollars that you're paying back debt in. You can't have the value of those dollars increase because it makes it more difficult to pay the debt back. So you need monetary expansion to occur, so it's easier to pay the debt back, and that's what they do with inflation. More money comes to the system. They try to cool inflation down by raising rates, but then their cost of carrying the debt increases when they raise rates because rates are higher. So they can't really have that happen for too long. And now we're kind of seeing them come out of this cycle where they tried to raise rates high and now they're coming down. And then they can't print money, too fast like they're doing. Like I'm talking about the Fed, because they can't print money like they did in Lebanon, because then loss of confidence and no one wants dollars.
It's a balancing act.
Can you explain that a little bit?
It's such a big concept, but I guess the way to break it down and the Federal Reserve and the Bank of Canada kind of back-ended into this. So it's probably not a completely fair example, but it is a good way for myself.
Just how they're trapped, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So like basically every new dollar or monetary unit that comes into the system with interest. So if you think about that, if you just kind of rewind to the beginning and think of the very first dollar that gets created, because it's credit, like it's a debt-based money, when that dollar gets kind of released into the economy from the central banking system, it's $1 in the economy, but it's owed back to the central banking system plus interest. So let's say $1 comes into the economy, but it's 10% interest that the central bank was charging.
Yeah.
You need to pay back. The economy needs to pay back whoever borrowed that money, the government, an individual. They have to pay back that dollar plus interest. But if there's only $1, the very first dollar that came into the system, how do you pay back the extra 10 cents when the whole economy just has that $1, but interest is owed? So the only way to do that is you have to borrow again. And when you borrow again to get that extra dollar so that you can pay back $1.10, now there's more interest owed because that next dollar comes with interest as well. And if you extrapolate this out, it's why you always need more and more inflation of the money supply, because you can never pay back all the debt, because the money is debt and it comes into the system plus interest. So we have to constantly grow the money supply to keep this Ponzi system going.
So this is why there's this weird balancing act.
Yeah. So, and if they release too many dollars into the system, they lose confidence and people are like, well, this is hyperinflation. I don't want these dollars, or they don't buy me anything. So they have to pretend they're raising interest for like the good of housing or the good of groceries. But really, they're just trying to manage this system. They want the inflation. And then if inflation gets too low, to your point about like deflation, if the monetary system the money supply starts decreasing, you literally run out of dollars to pay the debt, because remember, the debt comes in plus interest. So if you pay back all the dollars, eventually you've paid back all the dollars, but all the interest is still outstanding. The whole system collapses.
Yeah.
So you can't have deflation. In the modern economist would be a Keynesian economist. They literally think money exists to extinguish debt. They don't have the concept of real, true money like you and I think about money, where money is like a store of value, medium exchange, and proper unit of account. They literally just look at it as like money exists to pay off debt. But then if you take all the debt instruments, all the currency that we call money today, and pay back all the debt, you still have all this interest outstanding and the whole system collapses. I know these are hard concepts to understand. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining it right now, but you can't have deflation. You can't have the money supply decrease.
Yeah, so
it must always increase.
In this system, this is why just prices of goods continue to go up forever.
In dollar terms. But in Bitcoin terms, when we now have a new measuring stick, a new monetary asset, things like if you just look at real estate for the last 4 years or 10 years or whatever.
Or Apple stock or whatever.
Everything's going down in Bitcoin terms. And it's why Bitcoiners will often say, life gets cheaper when you save in Bitcoin. Yeah. Prices are going down in Bitcoin terms. And it's like this just complicated.
Well, it is crazy. Like I think just for myself looking back, it is crazy. Like the last 4 years compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin, I think is just below 50%. I think the average, so like the last 15 years is like 60-ish. And then the lowest ever, so like the lowest ever 4-year compounded annual growth rate, I think is 24%. And when you just think like those are just, I know you're still like looking at fiat prices here, but still like your mind's blown. Like when you see those, see those type of returns for yourself, it's like, holy crap.
And I just want to explain, because that's something so important that you shared, because those compound annual growth rates to the financial industry or professionals in the financial industry don't seem possible. So they will look at Bitcoin and they'll say, well, it must be a Ponzi. It must be a fraud. Like this thing doesn't work. But the reason that people like that say, and the reason to me, Gen Z has the potential to smash the financial establishment, is that my generation, and I think most of the current generation that are alive today, they have forgotten, or they have never been taught what money really is. They think the current money we have, which is really a debt receipt, is money, but real money.
Can you explain like the three factors of what like makes real money?
Yeah, like real money has characteristics that like it's durable, it's finite, it's secure, it's divisible. It has all these characteristics. That's what real money is. And then when we have real money doesn't have a yield. But because we haven't had real money for generations, people don't understand that real money just sits there and does nothing except increases your purchasing power and increases its own purchasing power over time because it's finite. What people will then default to is they'll say, well, that's garbage because there's no yield. They're only saying that because they don't know what real money is. And they are so scared to have like any monetary units in their bank account. They must invest.
And again, I think this is going back to the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you're not going to get the solution.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was funny. Just the other day, Andrew Tate was tweeting on this about Twitter and made a video just about Bitcoin. He's like, why would I buy anything else right now when I can just stack sats and save in Bitcoin? But he's like, like, isn't deflation a problem? Like, will anyone spend their Bitcoin? And kind of goes on about deflation and then people recommending Jeff Booth's book. So can you break down just, I guess, like deflation and what Jeff's talking about, like a technology, like right now what's happening in the world with tech, like the free market is driving the prices of goods down because now I have a personal assistant, ChatGPT, to do whatever it needs to do for me. Like the dexterity in robotics for like Tesla. Like I was talking to my friend that was working for Tesla in the summer the other day.
Yeah, what's he saying?
What they can do now in those factories is insane. And they're like almost completely humanless. And like as this continues, it's just the price of goods should be falling because we're getting more, like our productivity is increasing and we're able to do things at a like quote unquote cheaper price. But we don't see those gains in our current system because monetary expansion needs to happen, and that offsets the deflationary gains that we should be seeing. Can you explain that a little bit?
That was a great summary. Yeah, there's not much for me to explain after that. That was a great summary. It's just that we need the money supply to expand constantly, as we discussed. Otherwise, the whole system collapses. So if we get better at producing things, it's funny, one of your good friends has a dad who's an engineer, and he was explaining to me when he was in manufacturing that every year they just got better and better at making the stuff they were making. And then I asked him, like, well, why doesn't the price go down? And, we kind of just had like a big...
I think it's similar. Sorry, continue.
So it's just a bigger conversation that like, humans just get better at doing everything that they do. So prices should go down over time, but they can't go down because the central banking system requires more and more M2 to keep the system alive, to make those interest payments. So they're literally faced with this problem that like, as productivity makes things cheaper, they have to feed more monetary units into the system. And what's happening now is you
can't tax the robots. You can't tax the AI.
And maybe they'll get to that point at some point.
Who knows?
But they're faced with a big problem right now because of technology and AI and what you're saying. Productivity is increasing so quickly that they now have to respond with more and more M2 into the system to offset it, which means the inflation coming our way is going to be devastating over the next 10 years. And because this concept is so abstract for most people my age, and I guess your age as well, people just don't get it. And I think that's why...
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this stuff.
But that's a good book. You recently read The Price of Tomorrow, Jeff Booth's book.
Yeah, that was a great book.
I think it's approachable. No, like, what did you think of it?
Totally, yeah. No, it was 100% approachable.
I think
I'd recommend it for sure.
And he only mentions Bitcoin in the book, I think, like one time.
Yeah, just at the end. I think it was before he really understood Bitcoin himself and like really went down the rabbit hole.
So maybe that's a good place for just people to start. The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth. Like that book is
That's a great book.
Just for conceptually understanding.
Right behind you right now.
Yeah, because I love the book. Jeff's a great guy, and I love the book. But anyway, so I think over the next few years as productivity, and I just want to explain one other concept is some people will say, well, Tom, if you look at GDP, some of the factors that will increase it are like population growth, capital or debt, and productivity. And during the baby boom generation, when you had such a spike in population, what happened was an increase in productivity was met with demand. And that did increase GDP. But right now, we don't have spikes in population in the Western world happening. So the productivity is creating
They're trying to fight that with them.
Yeah, well, the productivity is creating more and more stuff. But because there's not demand increasing for all that stuff, they have to offset that lack of demand from demographics with more and more monetary units.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely crazy. And Bitcoin kind of saves you.
And I think this is like, yeah, back to the point about that, like growing the debt. Like a lot of people will say like we're like housing is a bubble, or like we're in an asset bubble right now, but it's like we're in a currency bubble. Like the currency is the bubble, not the assets themselves. Nothing's changing about
we need more housing. We don't need less housing.
Yeah.
So the housing, we don't have a bubble of quantity of housing. The price is a reflection on the value of the currency, which we are in a currency bubble for sure. And I just think,
and then in areas like Ontario where the supply and demand metrics are so out of whack,
it enhances it or
enhances totally.
Yeah. Makes it worse.
The demand for housing.
Yeah.
And then red tape with the government doesn't help.
Yeah. And I think sometimes housing can come down. Look, when they raise interest rates, you can have periods of time where prices do come down. It's just that if it comes down too far, the central bankers will freak out.
Yeah, like the last 12 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
But I mean, yeah, like you're probably silly to think like it's just because the money system is going to increase. Like, yeah, prices are likely going to be more expensive in 2 years from now.
You know what's nice for me, I guess, as your father to think about it, the fact that you know about Bitcoin is like, oh man, like, you know, when I started figuring this stuff out, like I panicked a little bit, thought, oh, how am I going to get ahead? And reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and getting into real estate and trying to figure this thing out. But your generation can just crush the financial establishment by buying Bitcoin and holding it. And it kind of gives you a sense of freedom.
But you need to figure out ways to
you need to earn it. You need to offer value to the market, to earn fiat to be able to buy Bitcoin.
No, being able to save Bitcoin is absolutely huge. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, I'm still so early in like my career that I'm still just, trying to learn as many skills as I can to be able to increase my income, to buy more Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And then there's still opportunity with friends. Like we talk about all the time. I have some friends that one's becoming an architect right now. A couple are engineers, and they're all into to real estate just because like everyone is.
Sure.
I feel like you've been forced into real estate in Ontario over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
And I think there still is a lot of opportunity with like missing middle real estate, like from the development side of things, and like big real estate as a business, like income expenses, because the supply and demand is just so out of whack here.
A few people use missing middle. What is the missing middle?
It's just pretty much multiplexes. So like, instead of having like big condos in Toronto, or no, like not instead, but it's just filling the gap between single family homes and high rises pretty much. And it's like, we filmed a video last year, Craig Race, an awesome architect. He's been to at some of our events.
With Leonid building that tent.
Yeah. So they took one single family home, severed it, and they put, I think it's an 8-unit multiplex on it with a garden suite in the back. I think the garden suite was 2 units. Side by side, and they have basements in both of the garden suites, and that's like the missing middle and the opportunity for builders there. I think like you talk about all the time, I don't need to repeat it, but I think is massive, and that's something that I'm interested in learning about just for myself, like whether that's getting into like the builds or however I can.
That's myself. For the investor right now, the missing middle is the opportunity in the Greater Toronto area. I think right across the country, that's the opportunity.
Yeah, I think Vancouver is like slightly ahead of us here in Ontario with some of that stuff. And then with like technology advancements, like we're talking about with crowdfunding, like how Addy Invest makes it easier to fund some of these projects, and I think that's going to continue over. And
Addy Invest is now, they did their first, so that's Steve Jager, who's actually going to speak at our next event. They put their first single family home lot on the platform, addyinvest.ca, I believe is the website, where they're crowdfunding the money to develop that piece of land. And it's a single family lot. This isn't a huge development. So when you democratize real estate development like that through the use of technology, things get super interesting, because now you can participate for like $10 or $100 in a development project.
Totally. So I think there's lots of opportunity for people my age, and there's like, it seems like there's lack of just labor. So I think there's lots of opportunity if you're willing to do the work in those type of projects. I think those are going to be
wow. When you put it that way, when I think of Bitcoin and then Addy Invest and then the lack of labor, and anyone in your generation who really wants to be like a plumber or a trade, the opportunity going forward for your generation is quite good.
Totally.
damn it, my generation's kind of in this weird spot and you're walking into all the opportunity in the world. It's perfect. We're ending
guys
on a positive note. Yeah, we're fine. I'm not complaining. It's been good. How do we want to leave it? Anything else that you want to share? Did we cover everything that you were thinking? I think so.
No, I guess you mentioned MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is an investment, not a savings vehicle like Bitcoin. I'll just make that clear. MicroStrategy is Michael Saylor's company.
Yeah.
They're pretty much a Bitcoin treasury company.
And Ruben just walked by you here while we were recording this. Ruben and I used to compete against MicroStrategy when we were at Oracle selling business intelligence software.
Yeah.
And now they are a software company that is turning into a Bitcoin treasury and just adding Bitcoin to their balance.
Yeah, that's a long story. We can get that.
We'll leave that one for today.
We've seen the comments though. Everyone asking to get Saylor on the podcast. You might be able to do some work.
Yeah, we'll
next
see.
week.
We'll see. Yeah, yeah.
We're trying our best.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it. I guess, you know what, one point, so we're going along now, but I think you do a good job of explaining this, is I think a lot of people, you get the like Bitcoin, there's no intrinsic value. It's this digital thing, and it makes sense why people are thinking this way, because, you know, like on your screen, it's just an abstract of like a video, like it's not real. But Bitcoin, it uses proof of work. It's physical energy. Can you explain? Right. You do a better job of explaining and articulate this. So it's the first time like physical energy like has been able to be used digitally, like the way it is.
Yeah, I guess
kind of touched up on this in the last VIP talk.
I think what makes Bitcoin interesting is in the digital space, we've never had physical constraints. And what I mean by that, if somebody sends you a PDF or a Word document or a presentation or whatever, even a database, you can copy and paste it and make duplicate copies of this basically for free.
Yeah, and you can, like a video, you can rewind and fast forward.
Yeah.
There's no sense of like time.
So what Bitcoin introduces is that when people say that there's no intrinsic value, I'm like, okay, well, why don't you just go and try and create another Bitcoin if there's no intrinsic value? And you can't, because of proof of work, the way the architecture of the system is created, you need to expend physical energy in the real physical world to create new digital Bitcoin. It's the first thing that is scarce in the digital world and is constrained by physical energy.
And that's like the mind-blowing concept.
That is the mind-blowing concept.
That people don't understand.
That people don't understand. It's mind-blowing. We've never had this before, where you can have digital scarcity constrained by a physical constraint, energy. And this is kind of completely mind-blowing. And that this whole proof of work mechanism and a distributed ledger together, I think it's like when you don't understand the technical setup of Bitcoin, it's easy to dismiss it. But once you start understanding the technical infrastructure behind how it all works, miners, the difficulty adjustment, and you can't even just...
It's worth looking into.
It's worth looking into. You can't even throw more miners at this problem of Bitcoin because every 2 weeks the Bitcoin algorithm adjusts its difficulty to ensure that no matter how much computing power is in the Bitcoin mining network globally, a new Bitcoin block will only be mined every 10 minutes. And to your concept of time, you would have this like living, breathing algorithm that no individual controls.
Satoshi made time digitally every really 10 minutes with the blocks.
He really did.
And he had to.
And the whole world globally is in sync on that time. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and I think, like a lot of people, a lot of the like VC guys, like Jason I'm talking about, they have no incentive to learn the protocol because they've already done well. Like he's made money.
Yeah.
Heck, like... He doesn't need it.
And then you can just make fun of it. And it's clear that you don't understand it or own it when you just bash it.
Totally. And so many, you see the headlines, like when people are talking on Twitter, it's like, you can see that they've done no research into what they're talking about. They're just reading the latest Yahoo Finance headline.
Because it's not just a monetary asset. It's literally an engineering marvel. And so for someone to dismiss it, I'm like, you have not looked at the technology behind it, because this thing is like a miracle the way it was born.
For any Rockstar members, you did a really good job breaking it down at the last VIP class, and I think we're going to use some of the bones from that presentation. And Anthony and I are going to teach a Bitcoin class to Rockstar members, so that'll be starting in 2025.
Yeah, brand new class that we're going to have consistently.
I should mention too, Anthony and I are both now Bitcoin mentors. So that is BTC Sessions. So Ben Perrin and Mike Cook's company, pretty much helping people use Bitcoin, like self-custody Bitcoin themselves. So if you need help with any of that, feel free to reach out. we're more than happy to help. And self-custodying your Bitcoin is key, because if you don't self-custody and have control of your own Bitcoin, you're not benefiting, you're not utilizing all the attributes of Bitcoin.
Custodying it yourself.
So if you have Bitcoin, get it off an exchange. It's not worth the risk. Self-custody it yourself. And if you need any help with that, we can help you out. Shout out to all the videos BTC Sessions makes, and Mike Cook organizing everything over there at Bitcoin.
So how would they reach out to you guys for that? Do we have a way yet? Not yet. Just kind of look at our stuff, reach out, find us a way. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I think we don't even mention it's Christmas Eve.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Aidan, for doing this. I appreciate it. Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's it. Go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go. This is the year.
See ya.